It is. I'm right next to you. Know where
And Adam, thank
You want to, okay.
I know you know what
I will.
my coat will share with me, okay? That's fine.
Okay, good evening. We need to get started, everyone. If members of the public would like to speak, please sign up. If you haven't signed up by 6:45, you won't have the opportunity.
Wait a second, guys. Wait a second. Peter Patch, please move over.
Okay. I know my email is. And your phone for the phone. But this first. Okay, good evening, everyone. This is the December meeting of Community Board 8 Manhattan. It's a combined land use and full board meeting. We will begin with the land use portion of it. And then after the land use items, we will have the public session. Any members of the public who have signed up by 6:45 may have 1 minute to make comments or ask questions of the board. Right now, after each land use item, the public may ask questions or make comments, and then members of the board. Once we're done with the public session, it becomes an executive meeting, and the public will not be able to participate. If you would like to, if you are a member of the public and you have a comment or a question, once we move into executive session, you will have to find a board member and ask them to ask the question on your behalf. And that's why I ask all board members to sit in the first 3 rows. So we're congregated up here and you can find us. So let's begin with the land use item of Knickerbocker Plaza. Is the applicant here? Okay, where is the applicant? There you go. Okay, so come on up.
We're just passing out the presentation materials that will be helpful. Yes. Yes. Yeah, can we get 2 more? Eva, can we get 2 more? Okay. No, I don't think so. I'll try and speak loud. Okay, I can start. Good evening, everyone. My name is Ashley Dukas. I'm from Strucken Levan, and we are land use counsel to the applicant for this application. We're here tonight to present to you the proposed parking special permits that are before the City Planning Commission. These are 3 special permit applications for Rupert Tower, Yorkville Tower, and Knickerbocker Plaza garages, and it's to increase the number of originally approved parking spaces within each of these garages. I apologize that we don't have the presentation up, but I hope that in front of you will do. So we have an area map of the surrounding area showing the high residential and mixed-use nature of the community. And with the increased approval of this application will benefit garage services, garage safety and security, electric charging stations, improve and increase bicycle access, and ensure proper compliance of the existing garages. So, Under Article 1, Chapter 3 of the zoning resolution, it pertains to parking in the Manhattan core, and so these garages were filed under special permits under Section 13455, and we provided you with the exact language of the zoning resolution, but I'll sum it up as clear as the zoning resolution can be made for these sections. For Section 13455A1, Yorkville Tower and Rupert Tower were analyzed under that, and I'll get back to that. Knickerbocker Plaza was analyzed under 13455A2, which has to find that the sum of the existing off-street parking spaces does not exceed 35% of the dwelling units in the building, and Knickerbocker Plaza meets that calculation, which you'll see on a subsequent page. Section 13451 is how Yorkville and Rupert were analyzed, and this required a residential growth parking study. Seth Wright is from Philip Habib's office. He's an engineer, and his team also did the residential growth parking study, which analyzed the community and the neighborhood and the net increase of dwelling units over a time period and the net increase or decrease of parking in the area. And it found that the proposed increase of parking spaces was reasonable and not excessive and met the threshold of city planning's standards for the parking study. In addition to the basic special permit findings, we also had to meet findings that the entrance and exits did not interrupt the flow of traffic, they did not interfere with the street functioning, they did not create traffic congestion, and it would not be inconsistent with the streetscape. Because these are existing garages, these findings were easier to meet than new garage applications, but we also analyzed them in the proposed increase as being sufficient under each of the findings of 1345. So the next page shows the chart of, you can see the proposed increase. And in 1975, when the buildings were built in the garages, it shows what was approved as an unattended parking garage. And over time, as you're probably aware of these garages, it's the proposed increase that we're suggesting is to have the garage in compliance with how it exists today. So really there are no impacts. It's been operating like this, and the increase will ensure proper compliance of these garages. So for Rupert Tower, we're proposing 150 spaces, Yorkville 205 spaces, and Knickerbocker Plaza 98 spaces. And you can increases 370 in Rupert, Yorkville 506, and Knickerbocker to 202. Any questions on the numbers or?
So you're saying this is, what you're trying to do is bring the regular garages in conformity with what's existing now?
That's correct.
And how the original number was approved in the approving resolution?
Yes.
And then the buildings went ahead and added the spaces without authorization?
Correct.
And so why now have you decided that you comply?
The ownership who's here today and also the garage operator is taking the steps to ensure the proper compliance of the garages as they exist today.
Two questions, just to clarify that. So how long ago were those new spaces absorbed? Because I'm wondering where the land came from to do it. So how many years back are you talking?
I'm not sure.
When the original garages were built, they were built in exactly the same as
Right.
they were today, but they were likely approved as a self-parking facility. And over time, as demand continued to increase since 1975, they have been operating in an attended form.
Attendance, so
Right.
they can put more
They can put more cars.
That's where it came
So there's no
there's no real-
construction or nothing. Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
The other thing is, with this increase, which is there, and I'm fully supportive of it, by the way. But a quick question: are you renting or planning to rent these, any of these spots or a block of them to Zipcars or the like?
It's a possibility. I think maybe there already are zip cars there, but we can check with the operator or hear your concerns or of that.
I would like to see this go to residents, whether they're in the building or in the surrounding areas, to provide that kind of a service to a commercial entity. To my mind, I've always been opposed to that. We are in dire need of parking spots, and filling those parking spots with commercial entities does nothing more than to raise the prices for area residents and make a parking spot almost prohibitive. We need these parking spots, so I'm going to support it, but I sure don't want to see it go to Zipcar or a light company.
You don't want to see
I do not.
Well, it's unlikely to change how they operate.
Well, how are they operating now?
It's mainly residents of the area. A
So
lot.
is there, you don't know the answer?
We can find out if
We
there are.
we can find out if there's Zipcar there, and if so, how many.
Is the owner here?
The owner of the buildings, who's the applicant, the operator is not here today.
Maybe they know.
Do you know the answer?
Yeah, there are spots available in the garage now. I can't, no, for anyone, for residents.
Anyone.
And it'll come up in the presentation, but this is still accessory parking. The residents have first dibs on the parking in the garage.
No, but I just wanted to say that I don't know if we're going to approve as presented. I mean, I don't know how we're going to handle this. I'm in support of the concept. If the majority agree, I would love to include somewhere in there that we are supporting for, residents and not out to commercial entities, like, i.e. Zipcar.
Let's wait till the end of the presentation.
Okay, yeah,
And then we'll hear the rest of the questions. But she may answer the questions.
I do know that it is occupied right now by residents and residents of the surrounding area, which is where the demand comes from, based on conversations with the operator and also how the study and the analysis works. And it also terminates back to residents of the building if an outside resident has a parking space and a resident of the building needs a parking space and there's none left, they get 30 days notice and they can take a space at any time. So it is to the residents of the building and to the residents of the surrounding area, not a public, but that's something we can get more definite answers on with the Zipcar. And I want to just turn it over to Seth Wright, since he, well, there's one more slide. I already talked about the bicycle parking will be increased. They'll be adding a stop sign and a speed bump and additional pedestrian areas to ensure safety and a proper way to navigate.
You just stole my thunder.
Sorry.
So yes, I'm the engineer who designed the internal circulation. So we went in and we located reservoir spaces, we located new bike spaces, we located pedestrian access zones that are all on the plans as per city planning requirements. So to bring it up to today's special permit requirements. So yes, all those things that she mentioned that we added, I was about specific design.
I just want to make sure you finish your presentation before we have more questions.
Okay, that's me, and so we can ask.
Yeah.
And that's
That's
on
fine.
all three separate garages.
Do you have more?
No, that's
Okay.
it.
All right, let's hear from the public first. Jordan?
Two items. First, if I walk around outside, what changes will I notice after this is done?
Maybe you'll notice the stop sign at the exit ramp, but the location of the entrances, nothing will be changed.
Yeah, I mean, there's, at the entrances, there's required to be a speed bump 4 feet away from the front, and inside there's required to be a stop sign. So when you're walking down the sidewalk, you should not notice any difference.
Thank you, I understand that answer. And the second point is, while some of the members of the community board actually own cars, not all of us are fortunate enough to be able to afford a car and to be able to afford a place to park. So one advantage to the neighborhood of Zipcar is that it provides a resource that otherwise is very hard to obtain.
Anyone else from the public? Okay. Now the board cost?
Are these all single level parking or double level?
Single level.
There are multiple levels, each one.
No. Mechanically.
Oh, no, there's no stairs.
No stairs.
Oh, yeah, no. There's multiple levels, but no. Yeah,
Can you put
no.
them in?
I don't think there's height anywhere for that.
Okay.
They're all built to be, 8 foot. Yeah.
Rita.
I happen to park in Knickerbocker, so I say that so that you understand what I'm saying is not, I'm not being prejudicial. Because there is so much building going on 2nd Avenue since the subway has been opened and more, and none of the buildings have garages, I want to be assured that the tenants who are parking in, that this doesn't become a bidding war for, if an outsider will give you $600 a month and an insider will give you $350 a month, that the outsider gets the parking spot and not the insider. That, I would like to have that put in to that residents have preferential, and that the need does not increase the cost of parking, monthly parking.
The residents will have preferential treatment and it's on the certificate of occupancy. It states that residents of the building get the spots over any outside resident. It'll remain that way, and we will assure that.
Across the street in the Rupert House Co-op, in the unmanned garage, it is $150 a month. It is not that in Rupert, Yorkville, or Knickerbocker. I am just concerned with Extel, who built across the street without a garage, etc., that there is not a bidding war and the residents get shut out. That's my concern, and
Okay. I'd like to know, these parking garages, are they owned by the building? And is this a co-op or a condo building? Or is this owned by an outside free agent?
The garages?
The garages, yeah, that's what
The
it's on the
garages
agenda.
are operated, the owner, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but the owners own the building and the garages. The operator runs the garages, who is GGMC.
But with an outsider operating, there's a profit margin. And I think getting to Rita's point, the question isn't will the residents have priority as per the lease to use the facility, but rather that the cost does not go up with the competition, and in fact should be looked at as a reasonable rent for the type of people who are currently living there and have lived since 1975 in a transitional neighborhood. So that's my concern, because if the building owner owns the garage, I would hope then that any rent increases is controlled by the profit margin and income coming from that garage. If it's freestanding and doesn't help the building, including allowing residents a reasonable cost, then why should we allow you to now legalize something you've been illegally doing? And I do hope that there's some kind of a fine that's coming on this.
We can, I think we
You
can
know,
address.
it's just not appropriate. I keep asking, and you say the owner's here. Can the owner respond?
Would you just join us up here, please?
Well, there's a group, that's why it would be difficult. What I was just going to say in response to your question is the rates are set, as you're correct, by the operator, but we have a limited lease with them. So the lease is already partially used up, and I think it's 10 years total. So if the residents weren't happy with the operator, then could work with you to find a different operator. Right now, the pressures actually, the competitive pressures are actually in the opposite direction. of trying to charge lower rates because garage operators tend to be converting. As I said, the operator there has space available. So right now, I hear your concern. Right now, that's not the case. If it became the case and they became predatory in their pricing, you could certainly work with the ownership to get a new lease with a different operator at the end of the lease.
When does the lease expire?
I think it's we think it's 2025, but don't hold me to that.
It's like 8 more years, so you're
Right.
you're 2 years into when you set the lease, was there an understanding that the residents of the building should be paying less than the outside people? So they've never gotten preferential treatment other than they can get a space.
Only when we first moved in.
And only when you first moved in. You don't have preferential, although you say there's a 30-day notice. See, they don't know what they're doing.
No, but we could work with that.
I have two questions. First, just regarding this whole question about utilization. So currently, is there a wait list for residents, or can any resident, if they wanted to park, be able to?
If any resident wanted to park, they would be able to park.
All right, so there are no capacity issues right now. You're just essentially.
Are you saying that because there's a capacity issue or because they could remove?
They can
an
remove
outsider?
an outsider.
Oh, they can remove.
They
an
can
outsider.
remove an outsider.
Is that currently happening?
That is
or-
currently happening. It's pursuant to the certificate of occupancy. The CO could get revoked if it wasn't working in that manner, and they have made that clear. It's written in our application. It's been brought up by city planning, so it's a very known item on our agenda to ensure that that happens.
All right, and just on a slightly different note, I noticed, I don't know if you mentioned the electric vehicle amenities in place.
Right.
Is it, when you talk about meeting the demand, so right now, currently, you have 2 stations in there?
Right, currently
What-
there's 3 in each garage, but the operator, if demand increases, willing to expand that.
And what is the utilization of those? Are those currently regularly in use? Because for 1,000 spaces, that would be a 0.3% market share, which seems incredibly low, especially given that we're moving more towards a sustainable environment for automobiles and vehicles. So I would hope that there could be something to promote the use of that and alternative fuels, whether it be electricity or whatever direction it moves in. CNG vehicles could be accommodated as well, but 3 sounds extremely low given the number of spaces that you're going to have, given the amounts of electric vehicles that are out there.
I think that they put that in now as that's the demand now, but they would encourage it and are willing to put in more as it increases.
But don't you need to already have the infrastructure in place and meet the electrical demands for charging stations? So this would seem to be something that would need to be done earlier on instead of piecemeal in case, and so you're able to meet that demand when it does exist.
Today's, if you're building a new building, you would need to have 20% of your parking available capacity. You don't have to put in, 200 charging stations, but you need to have the electrical capacity. The 10 spaces that they have now in 3 in each garage is what they sort of need to provide to the vehicles that are coming there that need that. If they needed 20 more or 30 more, that's not a power issue usually in existing buildings. If they needed 200 or 300, it would probably be a problem, right? So DOB is requiring now that new buildings be built with this extra capacity. I can't say what these old buildings' capacity is, but the fact that there are 3 buildings all separate, and each one of them could have their own charging stations, which they do, it's likely that they're at their demand but not at their capacity.
Right.
So as more people come in, they can continue to put these up on the wall, and they're easy to to install.
All right, wait, I just had one last thing, please. And just in response to the question of zip cars, I just want to say I don't have a problem at all with that being part of it. I'm not sure that we as a community board can stipulate that you do or don't do relationships or enter into relationships with companies, but more importantly, we have such demand right now for our curbside, and there's always that constant struggle between, do you use the curb space for parking, loading and unloading of deliveries and such, bike lanes, bus lanes, everything of that nature. And there's always a concern about the loss of parking spaces there. I would much rather see those zip cars be in a garage and not on the streets than being on the street right now, taking up valuable curb space that could be used to promote safety and other initiatives.
I want to pick up on the issue that Rita and Elaine here going forward through the existing lease. Can you answer that?
Do you have any authority to demand some compliance with that request from the operator, or do they have entire free reign with respect to rates at the garage and who occupies the garage?
I mean, I don't know.
I think I'm rephrasing.
No, I understand. I don't know, because I don't have the lease in front of me. I don't think it gives us any special abilities. But what I will say is, Department of Consumer Affairs may have some say, and then of course, business relationship, and whether it's 8 years from now or not, they're not going to want to lose their business because of upsetting tenants.
Well, that has to do with how much it seems you would want to upset the tenants. Also, it would seem, and I'm sorry, I'm a lawyer, that you would be able to have a lease requirement that would require that they have certain pricing structures if that's what you wanted to, but that's not what this meeting is about. It's a general question, but I'm not sure that you actually have a complete answer for the people who are interested in the information.
Yeah, if I can just complete, thank you for that, Alita. Yeah, I just like to complete this. It seems to me that there's a relevant issue in terms of what are the rights, or to what degree are the existing people occupying those units protected. What I'm hearing is, we don't know, we can't answer that. And frankly, much as I tend to be in favor of, of developments of this sort, I'm very hesitant to approve it without knowing the degree to which the existing tenants are either protected or not protected.
I think that the owners will ensure that the way it's operated and will ensure that the tenants are protected. I mean, they've...
How does that work?
We can't price fix here.
It doesn't sound like it's price fixing. It sounds as though there's been an issue raised about how the operator treats tenants and non-tenants with respect to pricing. But we don't have the operator here. We have the owner of the building who doesn't have the information about what the operator does.
But the contract is between you. The contract is between you as the owner, and so it would be reasonable to expect you would understand how that works. It seems to me.
The operator doesn't satisfy the tenants, the owner will terminate or not renew the lease and get another operator. Is that correct? The capacity. I would think, as I said, right now in the garage industry, the pressure is competitive. It's the other way. It's not on the Upper East Side. No. And I would think additional capacity would help the economics on the side of the tenants. We don't have unlimited time, but I think I heard something that's inconsistent, which is that we're saying we're not at capacity. But and I'm sorry, I'm very bad at names, but what she's saying is that the tenants have been removing non-tenants from the space, which would indicate
what
that
she said is that that's the policy. In
other
other
words,
words,
that's happened, that's been happening.
No, she meant to say, I think, that it is able to happen forever.
So
we're not changing that
that's
rule.
part of the lease that will not change.
Yeah,
it hasn't come up, it might have come up in the past, I don't know, but it hasn't come up recently because there's capacity available in the garages. If it ever gets to the point that a resident wants a space and there's, let's say, somebody from another building down the block is renting that space, the building would give notice to that person from down the block, saying, I'm sorry, we need to avail this space to a resident of the building. They'd have 30 days notice, and then the resident would get the space.
Okay, so I misunderstood it as.
Yes, sorry,
Okay. Nick?
No, I'm okay. I was gonna make a motion to approve.
Second,
I guess you did. Okay.
Point of information. It's unclear, since we're voting on this now, what precipitated them coming to legalize the spaces? What's going on?
I think that would be a question.
There was, a violation was issued by the Department of Buildings, and ownership has taken action to correct it.
So in the contract then, was the contract for the number of cars allowed or for the additional cars that you've been renting out?
We'd have to look at
You
the
know,
terms of the, I mean, we
excuse me.
didn't bring the
I
contract
think
with
it's an
us.
insult not to have any information for us when you're coming to an important meeting where you want to legalize something that's not been legal for years.
Well,
I understand your concern, and we will address it. We can provide more information. We do not have the details of the contract and the lease from years ago in front of me. I apologize.
Well,
Barbara?
Since we don't have the information, I make a motion that we lay this over till
To
the
table.
January meeting.
There is a motion.
Table this until the January meeting.
Table.
Okay, hang on, everyone. Nick made a motion that was seconded to approve.
So now I'm making a substitute motion that we table this since we don't have the information until the January meeting.
But the application is only for
That was my
based on the
motion.
findings of a city permit.
There is not, there seem to be questions that are not.
We don't have the
capable of
answers
answering,
to.
and if there is,
Can you
if
come up?
it is.
Teresa, can you
What was the
come up?
question? I didn't hear a
The-
question.
It's a substitute motion to ask you to come back when
To
you have
table it, because
sufficient
we don't have the
information.
information.
Table it.
That
Table.
question she asked
Second.
was the information she wanted.
No.
Nick, do you accept the
He
substitute?
doesn't have to,
No,
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 he
no,
doesn't
no,
accept
no,
it. He doesn't have
That
to.
motion, that motion.
Okay.
He don't have to.
We have the motion on the floor
Yes.
now. It's a motion to table. I don't think that's debatable.
Correct.
It's not debatable.
Question.
So we-
It has to be called.
We call the roll.
Okay,
So
so
we
we're
have to
gonna,
vote on her motion first. If that fails.
okay, then we
it
go
goes
back to
motion
yours.
to
Okay,
But
thank you.
Teresa, can you answer in detail more of these?
We're not
operating-
going to do that now.
We
We're going to
table-
vote on
we
the
have to vote
motion
on the
to
table.
table it. So Lori,
Yeah, can you please come up here, Teresa?
No.
do you have, who said that you want to say something? Do you have answers to these questions?
No.
He did.
Yeah, we do, we just
Then
can't
why-
take a question.
then-
What is the
then-
question?
No.
Okay, there were a lot of questions about obligations to the people who live in the building, to rent for the people who live in the building, and there wasn't accurate information, or any information really, that the board members are.
Well,
So
I-
I would like to have, excuse me, and I'm sorry, I'd like to have a vote on whether we're going to table it.
Correct.
It's not a motion to disapprove, we're not sending you back if this motion passes, we're asking you to bring more information.
It's not debatable to table it.
And you have another view, I know, but I want to explain.
I would like Teresa to
No, it's
come
not
here.
debatable.
And there's, well, when, so there's a clock on the application? For when?
They don't even know.
No, sorry, we got approved, yes, we do have a clock. It ends in 60 days, and we got certified on October
Well, then they
30th.
should have come.
And you're
Well,
going
then,
now?
This was
we've already passed the 60 days then.
sorry, November 30th.
November 30th.
So you have
So
a.
we have
It's the
to,
January
you can
meeting.
come back to the January meeting.
Right.
Let's have a vote on the
Wait,
motion.
wait a minute.
No, we're not waiting.
I just wanted to.
You can't.
We're
She's
not
not in charge
waiting.
of the
Lori,
meeting.
please call the roll.
Okay, this is a motion.
To
Table.
table.
Yes,
Okay.
correct.
Ashby. Yes. Birnbaum.
no.
Boris. No. Brown.
No.
Camp.
Yes.
Chalky.
Yes.
Cone.
Yes.
DeLuzio. No, he's not here. Feather.
No.
Okay, Freeland.
Pass.
Pass. Harrington is not here. Hartzog.
Yes.
Helper.
No.
Johnson.
Yes.
King. She's not here. Not here. Kirschenbaum.
Pass.
Lady. back to Freeland,
No.
Kirschenbaum,
No.
Newman,
No. It passed. It passed.
We need an official count, though. Okay, we have 16 yeses, the table is 13 noes, 1 abstention, and 1 not voting for cause. So the motion to table passes officially. Okay. Okay, thank you. All right, I see that Councilmember, did he go? Kallos was here. Oh, he's on the phone. Okay, so let's move on to the next land use item, which is for BSA calendar 305, Fitness Studio, 3rd Avenue, LLC. Oh, I'm sorry, sir. Councilmember Kallos, would you like to come up? Thank you.
Hey, how are you doing? I got it. Thank you, good to see you. Happy holidays. Happy holidays. One more time, happy holidays. Thank you, and thank you for the holiday party outside. There is nothing unhealthy left. It is all gone. I may have eaten too much of it. Please don't tell anyone. I am the health council member.
So you left all the Brussels sprouts?
If there were I love Brussels sprouts. I didn't when I was a kid. I do now. I was actually just making it for my daughter for dinner before I stepped out to come here and be with you.
You should have brought some.
I will try to bring dinner for everyone. It's pureed for a baby, but I hope folks will enjoy nonetheless. Okay, sorry. Back on topic. Our state of the district is going to be on January 13th. We'll be giving an update on a lot of the work we've been able to do together. Abby from my office is going to walk around handing out copies of the newsletter to anyone who raises their hand who isn't already on our email list. We only have about 30 copies this month, so please raise your hand if you would like a copy. As I spoke about last month, I believe, the camp passed with 1.1 million votes, 80% of the vote, which is more people than voted in 2017 for mayor on both party lines. So I'm trying to say that I think that the next public advocate should have the option to run on small dollars. In fact, I'm horrified by the idea of now, normally there's an election, people give money, and in essence, they're taking a bet on somebody. And in this case, with so many people who are elected officials running, my big concern is that every single bet is a safe bet because you're able to give elected officials at this point $2,550. And if they win, then great, you've given money to the next public advocate. But if they lose, they're still an elected official. And it's and there's going to be a special election in February, another election in primary in September, and then another election in November, which means people will be able to give and give and give again. And I don't think you should be able to hand somebody, I think if I try to do all the math in my head, we're talking about $7,350. That seems like an awful lot, and I think $5,100 is an awful lot. So that's something we're working to get done. Another key piece that I'm hoping to get done before the next snowstorm is to get GPS on our school buses, get that legislation passed. Another piece I just want to talk about is when I first got elected, I said that this should be a full-time job. I said that elected officials shouldn't get paid by the leader. Cash in their pocket was called a Lulu because the Daily News called it legal grease. I called it legal bribery, because if you didn't do what the leader told you, then you lost money in your pocket. And so the New York Times finally said that what we did was the right thing. They said it was a model. And then they asked the comptroller, Comptroller Scott Stringer, Comptroller Tom DiNapoli, and 2 former comptrollers, and all of them said yes. If we do a legislative pay increase, we're going to tie it to removing outside income and Lulus. And there's an Upper East Side elected official who was offered a Lulu of $30,000. And she said no, and that is State Senator Liz Krueger, because she is not for sale and she deserves a huge round of applause. In terms of Amazon, who here uses Amazon? I think it's you and 80 million Americans. I also use Amazon. And so the only thing that I have a question about is who here thinks we should give Amazon $3 billion to come to New York City? Okay. And then for those 3 people, did you know that Google did not get $3 billion to come here?
Google didn't move to an outer borough and get REAP.
Okay, that is... Okay, so the point that was made is that based on the site selection, that it is that it might be apples and oranges. And the next question, who here thinks that billionaires should get their own helipads? So what I was quoted in every newspaper on the planet on was just saying that I'm a nerd, you folks know that, and I don't know any billionaires who have helicopters. We all know Mayor Bloomberg. We've all had a chance to go to Gracie Mansion if you're a community board member. And he rides the subway and he uses the 34th Street helicopter pad like all the other billionaires. But Jeff Bezos would end up being the only billionaire who would have his own helipad. And I was wondering, like, where would somebody get the idea that a billionaire should have a helipad? And when I think about it, the only people I know who have helipads are Bond villains, because at the end of the movie they get on the helipad and so that was what I was quoted on. It was misquoted in certain places, and it was something slightly interesting. Last time I was here, I was also talking about Board of Elections, and so I'm very open to working with you to do a poll siting task force, including both parties, because the Board of Elections is run in a building with 500 or 1,000 units in it. Let's just put a poll site in your lobby. We couldn't make it easier, and I'd love to drive turnout. Another key piece that's important, a lot of folks have issues with bikes. Bike safety report is out. We have an officer right here on the east side. And I think the only last thing I will share just before two last things. One is just the New York Times did a profile on composting. Who here has composting in their building? That is 2 of you. That is cool, because I didn't know that there was composting in buildings. We've tried to work with folks, and if you're interested, I'm interested in working with you. And I said in the New York Times, I've tried to get composting in buildings for 5 years, and I have not been successful. And I think the 2 people who raised hands, I don't think you worked with our office to get composting. You may have gotten lucky. And so the New York Times, the Department of Sanitation attacked me and said that I wasn't being accurate about it. And I was like, literally, we've tried. So if you're interested in composting, there's 2 people here who got it done in their buildings. We'd like to work with you on it. And I think the piece I want to leave you with is I had the opportunity of joining Assemblymember Rebecca Seawright's office at an event for, what is the name of it? Where they were honoring Betty Cooper Wallerstein. And I just have to share, they literally wrote her an opera. An operetta, an opera song. It was pretty impressive, and it was a pleasure to be there. So I know a lot of you had served with Betty, and I think she's great, and it was a pleasure to be a part of it. That was a very long report. Does anyone have any quick questions? I went too long. Happy holidays, Happy New Year. I will see you next year.
And the voting rights committee will be in touch.
Yes, please.
And
We have a meeting.
we do?
Yes.
Okay.
I believe so.
Good.
Okay.
Okay. No. We don't? Elaine, talk to Councilmember Kallos. Thank you. Or Abby. Abby, I know, I see Abby back there. Okay, so with the gentleman from 305 Fitness Studio who is on your way up, please come up. Thank you.
everyone. My name is Michael Nakmias. I'm from Rothkrug Inspector. We're land use attorneys, and we represent 305 Fitness, who's seeking to obtain a special permit to operate a dance studio, which is a physical cultural establishment, for a period of 10 years. The building's located at 1440 3rd Avenue. It's between 81st and 82nd Street. The zoning district is C19, which permits PCE uses, and the special permit applies under that zoning district. The building itself is 2 stories and a cellar, about 3,200 square feet. The cellar is just for storage, about 800 square feet. And this is on 3rd Avenue. There's a lobby, restroom, exercise studio, and on the second floor is about 900 square feet. And there's more, there's restrooms, lockers, a waiting area, and an office. It would operate, it's a class-based operation. So during the week, it would be about 8 to 12 classes. And on weekends, where the hours are a little shorter, it would be about 6 to 9 classes. It would operate Monday to Friday from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m., Saturday 9:30 to 3, and Sunday 9:30 to 5. It's an ADA compliant building. It has elevator access on every level, and it's a fully sprinklered building, and the fire safety is all in place at this time. And there's about 15, there would be about 15 employees in total, most of them from the immediate area. So that's the application. If anyone has questions.
Are there any questions from the public? Any questions from the board? Shari?
You're starting operations at 6 o'clock in the morning. Does will any of the noise or vibrations affect any of the residents?
No. We're not anticipating it. The studios are actually, the dance studios at more towards the rear of the building. So it's not like you can open the door and any noise would come out. There are a couple other locations in the city with the same business, 305 Fitness, and there aren't any noise complaints. And it's a requirement for the BSA approval to have the sound not exceed a certain decibel level. And actually that's enforced by DEP as well. But there haven't been any noise complaints.
What's the street? There's vibration complaints.
Third between 81st and 82nd.
Thank you.
Did you hear her?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear your follow-up question.
I'm just familiar with an application in another location where the residents are complaining that on the ground floor there's an exercise studio and the vibrations from the exercise goes throughout the building, and I'm just asking.
Well, this is a 2-story building with no residential above it. And I don't know what, I mean, it's just a dance studio, so it's just strictly music.
Any other questions? Michelle?
Who was in this location before? I'm just trying to identify it.
I can't tell you, I don't know.
It's an empty storefront now, you mean?
It was a 2-story cellar level building that was constructed in 1986. As far as the prior tenant, I'm not 100. I don't know.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Do you know what's next door?
I didn't look to see what commercial uses are next door.
Nick?
Motion to approve.
Okay. Oh, Barry?
Second.
Okay. Lauren? Ashby? We're voting to approve. Yes?
Yes.
Birnbaum?
Yes.
Morris, yes. Brown?
Yes.
Camp? Yes. Shockey?
Yes.
Cone?
Yes.
I think he left. Did he leave? He left? Okay, Harrington's not here. Hartzog?
Yes.
Halpern?
Yes.
Johnson? Yes. King? Kirschenbaum?
Yes.
Slater?
Yes.
Moore's not here. Liston's not here. Mason? Newman? Yes. Partial?
Yeah.
Hatch?
Yes.
Hope Marshall? Yes. Hopper?
Yes.
Price?
Yes.
Salcido?
Yes.
Sanchez?
Yes.
Schneider?
Yes.
Spagnoletti?
Yes.
Strong Shinzaki? must have stepped out. Oh, Squire?
Yes.
Or you can go back to Billy at the end. Freeland? We don't know where we're going. Yes?
Yes.
Okay, while Laura's counting it up, I'll ask the members of the public who've already. Oh, we have to write. Oh, right, I'm sorry, I missed that because there's no paragraph. Okay. The 92nd Street Y folks, just get ready. Get set. Just kidding. Go! Okay, it's 31 yeses, unanimous.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for your time.
Thank you.
I'll wait for the team to come up. Well, first, thank you for having us on your agenda today. We do appreciate the opportunity to be in front of you today. I'm joined here by Kevin Green, our head of security, Ellen Birnbaum, our head of early childhood program, and Liz Costa, our head of institutional giving. My name's Jim O'Hara, and I'm the CFO at the 92nd Street Y. We don't really have anything to ask of you today except to listen. We've been part of the community for a number of years. We have a number of programs and projects and initiatives that are engaged in the community, and we just want to give you guys a chance to know what we're doing and where we are and get some feedback from you. One of the things that we're working on is a large project, a capital campaign, where we've raised a lot of money and we've actually started a number of projects. Recently we were able to finish, or very close to finishing, we have one section left of repairing our facade in accordance with Local Law 11. So in a couple of weeks we'll be able to take the remaining scaffolding down and we'll be done with the outside of our building. We're very proud of that. Yeah. We've also done a number of projects inside the building. So 4 years ago we finished a new gymnastics school which has been used by kids across the community and younger children. We've also just finished a 5,000 square foot school of music, which is brand new, which has 14 to 15 instructional rooms that's used all day long in a really nice new renovated area. Our time to build campaign, which is what we're calling it, should go over the next 5 to 7 years. And for the most part, it's a renovation of spaces inside the building, spaces that will continue to support the programs that we have. We have a senior program with over 650 seniors. Those seniors have been in the space and they come every day. There's almost 60 individual programs a day included in their tuition that they pay, and we're going to create a new space for them over this period of time. We also have a residence with 300 beds. A lot of that is done by young adults involved in programming, and a number of those programs do involve hospitals across the city and in this community, other community centers that are within the area. We've just recently had Rockefeller University that's had 30 young researchers spend the summer with us, with our residents. So there's a number of programs that we have, and Ellen's going to take you through the childhood programs.
For those of you who don't know, the 92nd Street Y is a very long-term institution. The nursery school at the Y is over 80 years old, and I can't even compute the numbers of children and parents that have been served over the time that we've been there. The parenting center is 60 years old. Again, thousands and thousands of parents who have brought children to us from birth until the age of 3 in the parenting center. But more than that now, we're outreaching to help grandparents navigate those early years with children, as well as caregivers to help them support families in the very important ways that they do with young children. So the parenting center has so many access points, and we are, from a mother who's had her baby and has no community, can come and be there, and new fathers at the same time have found community in our parenting center. But we've reached out into the community in so many other ways in childhood programs. One way is online, the way people access information now too, with podcasts and information to help parents get expert advice in the early years. Parents, we have two programs that have gone into the broader community. One is the Dance Educational Laboratory program, which is serving UPK teachers in helping them bring dance and creative thinking into their classrooms. That will expand to 3PK, and I think our mayor has big ideas about birth now to 5, so who knows what else the 92nd Street Y will be able to do to serve the broader community. And the same with our CALL program, which has served more than 16,000 public school children, bringing art into their classroom with performing artists who are training teachers. And then these programs, these learning programs, culminate with a performance in our concert hall, bringing children into this wonderful facility. So we hope you'll all access the 92nd Street Y in the way that you need over the years that you're bringing children into your families.
I'm a graduate of Head, Shoulders, Knees, and Toes with my
Oh, great. Thank you all.
And those classrooms include 4 schools in Community Board 8's district. So we work with PS 183, PS 151, the Yorkville Community School, Eleanor Roosevelt High School, and PS 529, the East Side School for Social Justice. So we work with and serve 800 students across those 4 schools, from kindergarten through high school. In fact, in PS 527, we serve all 431 students in that school, and we've been working with Principal Dan McCormick since that school was founded. In fact, we worked with Dan McCormick for Woman Rushdie to get to meet those artists. And then sometimes the kids even go on stage, and our 900-seat concert hall is 527 on stage. With the great, I don't think Councilmember Court, we've been able to bring after-school programs to a percussion club to Eleanor Roosevelt School, a music theater program to PS 151. Those are 5th graders. And then my favorite, the cutest, jazz dance to kindergartners, 50 seniors. We also, with Councilmember Kallos' support, are doing outreach to other senior centers. So we work with Greg Morris and Paki Khan at the Stanley Isaac Center, and also with Lisa Fernandez at the Roosevelt Island Senior Center. And we bring the best of our arts center to these senior centers. We did a exploration in visual art, 5-hour class per week. All the students signed up for those 5 hours. We hope to do more in the community. And we also want to say that we're a resource for you, and please feel free to call on the Y. We very much feel a part of this community. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Are there questions from the public? Comments from the public? Okay, let's turn to the board. Cobbs?
You do offer many services that you run. Do you also offer free rental to community-based organizations?
Yes, again, from time to time, as Liz said, anytime there's a need or a request that comes in, we would try to make the space available and work out what the cost would be. As an example of that, we offer over $1.2 million of scholarship to all the programs that we have every year. So we're open to those ideas and the ability to do that.
So if Community Board 8 were to request a space once a month or once every 3 or 4 months, we would get it?
You can look us up. I don't know about it once a month, but no, I know. I can see. Look, our space would be great for a meeting like this, so we would be happy to work with you.
No, we can't pay.
I understand.
I think finally we have a community organization that works for our community, and for that, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Any other comments?
Yeah, I just want to say, you're a great organization. I'm thrilled to have you in our community. Thank you so much for what you all do. Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Okay, now we can return to the public session. We only have a couple of speakers. I'll call you up. You can line up in this order. 3 speakers. Omar Toro-Vaca, Mike Edison, and Elizabeth Ross Daly. You can go ahead.
Good evening. I'm speaking on behalf of Northwell Lennox Health. We, of course, presented last night. My name is Omar Toro-Vaca. I represent Kasira, and we're doing the government relations component of the project. So what I'm speaking about is the request to remove the banners, get feedback from the LPC, and then once we have that feedback, make a determination as to what changes can be made. We just couldn't embark in any design changes that would be substantive or meaningful in the matter of 23 hours. So, but we know that we can give up the banners, and I'm here to just announce that.
To be clear, that's an item that was on the agenda and discussed and voted on at the Landmarks, addressing the care center, and one of the items that the community board was concerned about, that the Landmarks Committee was concerned hanging from the side of this building. So you'll see it when we get to that item in the packet. Thank you.
Thank you.
Just to clarify. Okay, sir?
My name is Mike Edison. I live on 80th Street and 2nd Avenue, right across the street from the construction, and they're egregious violation of New York City noise. I filed suit against them today personally, and I'm going to get a restraining order in January. They get variances from the building department for 3 a.m. in the morning to bring some kind of machine in. Do you know how loud it is when they do that? And they make promises they don't keep. And they claim on their website they're working with you, and I want to bring this to your attention.
Some of those issues have been brought to the attention. Would you just contact the board office tomorrow and itemize what the specific issues are? I thought that the variance in the middle of the night on Saturday morning, a previous Saturday morning, a 4 o'clock variance, that was done. But if you have specific points.
Oh, I have a ton of them.
Yeah, just please get in touch. Either you could send an email.
Okay.
Okay? Thank you.
Or Andrew in the back, either one of those 2 guys that
Raising their hands back there.
they can talk.
You can talk to them right now and give them some information. Thank you. Liz? Hi.
Hi, thank you very much. Good evening, everyone. I'm Liz Daly. I'm the Community Relations Manager at the Frick Collection, and I just wanted to let you know that in the back on the table outside, I put some of our program brochures, and I would just like to call your attention in particular to one exhibition that we have, which is wonderful, which is called the Charter House of Bruges, and it will be closing on January 13th, but it's the first time that these 2 masterpieces from the 1440s have been brought together, and one of the works is by Jan van Eyck. So I hope that you get a chance to come see it. And also tomorrow night, in connection with that, we're having a free lecture on another charter house, which is the Charter House of Champol in Dijon. So anyway, these are in the back. So please come visit us, and happy holidays. Thank you.
Shari, do you have a question for Liz? You know what? Can you just have an offline conversation with the other people? Not a problem. Okay. Thank you. All right, let's turn to the agenda. Is there a motion to adopt the agenda? Second? Everyone approve? Any opposition? Good. Minutes? Motion to approve? Second? Any opposition? All approve? Great. Okay, so the minutes and the agenda are adopted. I know, Jessica, you were here earlier from, there you are, the Manhattan Borough President's Office. And then if all the elected official representatives who would like to speak to the board can just line up.
Can I just talk from here? Or?
Of course.
Okay, because I'm here, so. Good evening, everybody. Hello, Board 8. Louisa is usually here, and she had to go somewhere else tonight, so I'm here, but she'll be back with you next month. She says hi. Very quick updates. Wanted to just talk a little bit about membership. Want to make sure that CBA members all understand the ways that the new charter proposals are going to affect term limits and things like that. We sent out a memo, but if there's any questions about it, you can ask me tonight or get in touch with our office and we can clarify how all that plays out. But having said that, this is also community board application time. Current members need to, some half current members need to renew, so make sure that you know if you're one of those members. And then also, we're always looking to recruit new members, so let us know, and the applications are due on Friday, February 8th. That's it. We have, lots of people do different drives over the holidays, coat drives, food drives. Our office does a diaper drive. We do it every year. We feel like it's really important for, many reasons. People need diapers, and also when you try to put your child in a child care facility, you have to supply diapers. So even just to go to work, women or families need diapers. So we have drop-off locations at our southern office, our northern Manhattan office, and you can also donate online through the Food Bank NYC. And we're also, the Girl Scouts are partnering with us this year as well, so that's fun. And we have some grant applications open right now. Our cultural tourism grants, they're for arts and culture programs. They are available, the applications are out now, and the deadline is Friday, January 18th. We are doing a series of workshops in our Northern Manhattan office on healthy teen relationships, and they're going to be on the second Wednesday of every month going through the summer. We're getting a lot of heat and hot water complaints, as we do in the winter, particularly for NYCHA, but we do want to encourage anyone who's having any heat and hot water issues to get in touch with our office. Particularly our Northern Manhattan office takes complaints, and we work really hard to resolve those issues. So wanted to say that. And, very quickly, I don't want to comment at all on the garage issue that you were just listening to, but because I know you've tabled it. But we do very much support car sharing as a way to reduce congestion. So the extent that any garage can have some car sharing facilities, and then we also recently met with them. They're actually going to be coming to the board soon to talk about electric charging spaces on the street also. So you're going to have a lovely opportunity to debate those as well. And then the one's been waiting to hear on. My lawyers briefed me well in the office. So what I can say, nurse submit a ULURP application. And if they decide not to do that, we are exploring legal options. And that's all I can say on that issue. And happy holidays, everybody.
Thank you, Jessica. Mike?
Hello, folks. Mike Vanadel, Senator Liz Kruger. In the new year, a new legislative session begins, and Senator Kruger will be in the majority conference. Just recently, she was appointed to the chair of the Finance Committee, and so she has a opportunity and a lot of optimism towards getting some progress on a lot of the issues that I've repeatedly mentioned in the time that I've been here. So voting reform, making it easier to vote, campaigns finance reform, getting the influence of big money out of elections, deeper commitments to renewable and clean energy, strengthening rent regulations, and codifying reproductive health rights. So we're excited for that. As always, give us a call, leave us an email, walk in. We're open. Thanks.
Thank you. Hey, Jenna.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jenna Klaus from Councilmember Keith Power's office. And I first want to thank everybody, especially Will and Alita, for being so accommodating, because tomorrow night we have our town hall with Mayor de Blasio. Full board was supposed to be tomorrow, so we really thank you for that. But we also invite you to our town hall. It's going to be a great event. We've had hundreds of RSVPs at Hunter College in their West Building on 68th and Lex. The program will start at 6:30. Doors will open at 5. Doors will close at 7. And we hope that you can make it. If you haven't been able to RSVP, you can still RSVP at the door, and hopefully there will be some space for everyone. Also wanted to mention that we have one more day left of a toy drive we're doing. Some of the high need items are winter clothes and other care essentials for newborns, and we're collecting them at our office at 211 East 43rd Street. And then finally, as Councilmember Powers is nearing the end of his first year in office, he just wants to thank Community Board 8 and everybody in the community for engaging with our office and being so vocal and helping to drive some of the legislation that he's introduced and has been able to pass we really thank everyone. Thanks.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Victoria Hinojosa from Assemblymember Court's office. And recently, Assemblymember Court gave the Department of Transportation $250,000 in multimodal funding. And this is for repaving streets with surface distress. And the repaving will cover priority streets bounded by 5th Avenue to the west, 92nd Street to the north, 3rd Avenue to the east, and 37th Street to the south. And session starts on January 9th, so Assemblymember Court is getting ready for that, and he'll be working on issues like election reform and criminal justice. And there are some newsletters out back if you want more information on what he's been up to. Thanks.
Thank you.
Hi, everybody. I'm the new community liaison for Senator Serrano. My name is Suad Hassan. And I just want to remind everybody that I'm on Roosevelt Island every Wednesday for off-site constituent hours. Tomorrow I'll be at the Senior Center from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. And then the Wednesday after the holidays, I'll be at the library, and it will be interchangeable every week. That's basically all that I have. We have no updates, besides the senator being appointed chair of the conference and the chair of Culture Affairs, Tourism, Parks, and Recreation. Thank you.
Thank you. To thank everyone for being so flexible about moving the board meeting. I felt that it was important to give everyone who wanted to attend the town hall the opportunity to do so and not to have to choose whether to come to the board meeting or go to the town hall. So thank you. I just want to spend, because we were so rushed, we had such a long agenda last time, to thank individually all of the community board chairs who worked with us on the town hall on the ballot proposals. So I should have written down the names, and you know how bad I am. Anthony Notaro, Terry Cude, Alicia Coleman, Bert, but it was actually Lowell Kern from Community 4, Vicky Barbaro, Molly Hollister, 9 would be Nelsa Orama, 10 is, oh my goodness, 11. Oh, it's Padmore John, I know. Cicely Harris, and someone who just became a judge, so we're all very proud of him, Shah Ali from Community Board 12. So thank you to all of us. It was essential that we work together, and in fact, we had a dinner a few weeks ago, different board chairs around Manhattan, and we're talking about the next town hall that we're going to present in the fall on what we hope will be Charter Commission ballot proposals from 2019, and also something on either zoning or development for borough-wide interest from all of the boards. On the Fettner hearing that took place at the end of November, we invited Mr. Fettner, NYCHA, and the mayor's office. None of them showed up. George Janes, the urban planner, did show up, and we had questions and concerns that will be going out to the people that didn't come, and invited them to come to the next hearing, which will be January 30th, also at the Stanley Isaac Center. I would urge everyone to attend. There was actually very good board attendance at the last hearing, but it's important. So if you come with questions and concerns for Mr. Fettner, NYCHA, or the mayor's office, that would be a good thing. I'm asking for a contribution from each board member of $5 to go towards a gift for the staff of the building in which the board office is located. You can give those all to I'm going to say Lori, who will write down because she's up here, and you can find her at the, oh, you know what? You could give them all to Matt in the back, and he will keep track of all of the names so that we will be able to present a gift. And then I'd like to finally just wish everyone very happy holidays, a happy and healthy new year, and thank you for what for me has been a very informative, educational, passionate, committed year, and thank you again for the opportunity to do that next year. In the meantime, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, Happy Kwanzaa, Happy Hanukkah, which just passed, and very healthy, prosperous, successful, happy year. Okay, Will. This is unusual.
I think I'm 50% or so.
Well,
it depends. Okay.
Oh,
If you want me to talk more, I can talk more, guys. I just wanted to be very brief and introduce you all to Andrew in the back, who's our new community associate. We never taken my thunder. So Andrew joins us from Borough. He's fantastic. Has worked, interned in both the city legislature and the state legislature. So he has a lot of experience, is very bright, and I know that you guys will really enjoy working with him. And then I just wanted to flag for all of you guys that the January schedule is going to be a week behind. So the full board will actually be on the 4th Wednesday instead of the 3rd Wednesday. Transportation will be on the 2nd Wednesday. And it's only because the first Wednesday is the 2nd, so you would not really like to meet that week as we all assumed. So it just sort of structures out that the 5th Wednesday will be housing, the 4th, and so on and so on. So that will be posted online probably very, very soon. But just wanted you guys to all sort of have the 23rd of January on your calendar as the next full board meeting. So thank you all, and have a lovely holiday season. And thank you for one whole year of putting up with me.
Is it possible to put the next month's skeleton agenda rather than the full agenda? Put the next month's just a skeleton of what days the meeting will be?
Yes, that is on my calendar. There is usually 2 days ago. There's a calendar reminder for me to post those, and as we get venue spaces, and I do actually thank you guys always for advocating for help getting new venue spaces. But as we get those venues locked in, we update them and do that. So at any time, you should be able to check after the 15th, after the 16th, you should be able to check and see when the meetings will be by just going to the website and seeing there.
And since you brought it up, Kaz, I just want to be in the committee meetings and the board meetings, but we need your cooperation. We need to get the minutes before the day before the full board meeting. So as soon as you could get them to us, they could go up on the website, which is a benefit for the public and a benefit for the board members. So please, I urge you again. Russell?
I just say it's helpful even just to have the dates, even if you don't have locations lined up, and you can fill in the rest of the
Yeah, we do that. Yeah, that's and we try to fill in the agendas as they come in. It's always important to have the agenda for the next month before the very end of the month, because that's this thing that actually pushes back us sending out our e-blast that lets everybody know in the general population when our meetings are. Is if we don't have an agenda for a meeting, we don't actually like to send out that e-blast notice until we have that. Sorry, Michelle, yeah?
Michelle. Speaking of e-blast, have the numbers, new sign-ins, new sign-ups, I should say.
Yeah.
Have they been entered into our database so that they're included in the email blast?
Yeah, most of them have. We are now over, I'm very excited about this number. We're now over 2,600 followers in our e-blast, which doesn't sound like a whole lot, but it's not quite comparable to a council member's office, but it is growing, and it has grown by,
We get new sign-ins at each of the street fairs. We get the questions,
Yeah.
I signed in, but I didn't get the, whether or not that's the case, I don't know. But I just want to make sure.
The best way to sort of talk to these people is to tell them it does take a little bit of time to get signed up, and we also don't inundate your email with a lot of emails. So you don't be looking for an email every day, don't be looking for emails every week even, because we really do try to limit the number.
What they want.
Yeah. And so
they
that's.
They want to know what meetings, what's relevant.
Exactly, yeah. And the random sort of like as needed major change. But yeah, that whenever you're out on the street fair, just let them know we're happy. Like it takes me, I can do it from that table right there. So, yeah. Anything else? Thank you guys again. Really, happy holidays, and I really appreciate a very eventful and exciting year. Thanks.
Okay, let's turn to the committees. Where did Ed go?
You chaired that committee.
I know, but I'm also going to have to do the charter one because Billy left, so I thought it would be nice to have Ed and you since you wrote it. This is the housing committee. This is over here. This is the item that I referred to, but you could still come up, Barbara. The item that I referred to earlier, which was the hearing on the Holmes project, the NYCHA infill at Holmes involving the developer, Hal Fettner's company, NYCHA, and the mayor. And there was a hearing that was put on by the Housing Committee, the Health and Senior Services, and the Zoning Committees, to which George Janes came and did a presentation on the zoning and other environmental and other affordable housing issues in connection with that project. There has been a great deal of interest on it from the elected officials. with respect to some of the issues that came up were 3, the mayor apparently has some authority to issue zoning overrides, and there are 3 that he is prepared to issue with respect to the homes of Fifth. Will fill you in.
There's really nothing to fill in.
Okay. There's also a resolution.
There's also 5 other co-chairs of this committee. It was a joint committee.
I know, but Ed wrote it. I thought he'd be here.
He was here.
He was
left.
here.
Okay, I think after a lot of, all of us were very upset that Fetner didn't come and the city didn't come, and none of the people that were supposed to be there come. I think the resolution, and we sent a letter, which is even more important than the resolution, is in your packet. It passed, as Alita said, it was a lot of people, a lot of board members at the meeting. It passed 18-0, so there were 18 board members at the meeting. The big issue, I think, is, and you'll hear a charter revision, you may hear about this again, is the overrides. None of us understood how the mayor could just override major zoning resolutions, zoning rules, zoning regulations. We're still trying to figure that out. Hopefully, they may take some legal action, she said. I don't know. I'm still trying to figure out. I thought BSA was the way that they overrode zoning rules and overrode other rules. Evidently, the mayor has the power just to do overrides.
Can I add to that? There's also no ULURP. So when there's a mayoral zoning override, there's no oversight of what's going on. So it gives us a great, from my understanding, it gives us a great deal of concern, particularly the RFP that went out for the Fetner building indicated that he did not, that anyone applying for the RFP or putting in an application did not have to comply with certain of the zoning resolution provisions. So it is greatly concerning. And as people brought up at the hearing, it sets a terrible precedent throughout the city.
And the resolution, I guess we should vote on it here. I don't know. There. So I'm just going to read the therefores, okay? But I have to put my glasses back on. No. Well, we want to put it in the charter. We'll do that when we come to the. We discussed how we do that when we do the charter revision report. I just can't help talking about it because it's so bothering me so much. And this is on in your minutes. Therefore, it be resolved that Community Board 8 calls upon the mayor to refrain from issuing a zoning override for this project and be it its own land use process. Example, ULURP. If it feels that a zoning change is necessary to effectuate the infill development of the site, and be it further resolved that Community Board 8 calls upon the city to employ a complete redesign of the project like that for the East River houses if it submits this project to the ULURP process. And it passed 18-0. Resolution's on the floor. All in favor of calling the question? Aye. Just one more. Fetner has told us that he is coming to the next meeting on January 30th. That's why it's important for everybody to be there.
And we will be sending a letter itemizing quite a lot of concerns on environmental issues, on work and labor issues, on affordable housing and zoning issues. That letter's going out to, among others, Mr. Fetner, NYCHA, and the mayor's office, so they know to come prepared. And Will and I met with Mr. Fetner a couple of weeks ago, and he knows that he is expected to come with real answers to these questions. There'll be financial questions as well.
Call the roll, please.
Okay. Ashby? Yes. Birnbaum?
Yes.
Boris? Yes. Brown?
Yes.
Camp?
Yes.
Chalky?
Yes.
Cone?
Yes.
Freeland? Harrington? Hartzog? Hilburn?
Not voting for cause.
David, you have to say what the
My
process is.
client will be managing the recreational facility.
Will be?
Will be.
Okay, excuse me, I just want to repeat what you said. David Halpern is not voting for cause because, if I'm wrong, correct me, he will be managing the recreation client. Or your client will be. His client will be managing the recreational center. I knew.
Yes. Kirschenbaum.
Yes.
Later.
Yes.
Lamort. Yes. Liston. Mason. Newman.
Yes.
Patch.
Yes.
Pope Marshall.
Yes.
Hopper. Hopper?
Yes.
Price.
Yes.
Salcido.
Yes.
Sanchez.
Yes.
Schneider.
Yes.
Spagnoletti.
Yes.
Strong Shinsaki. Yes. Squire.
Yes.
Tamayo.
Yes.
Titlebaum.
Yes.
Fever. Yes. Diest.
Yes.
Wall.
Yes.
Walsh.
Yes.
Weiner.
Yes.
Feather, yes.
Oh, Feather, I'm sorry. I think I had been crossed out, right? Yes.
Okay, while Laura's counting it up, Abraham, would you come up with your life? Thank you. Okay, 31 yeses and 1 not voting for cause on the resolution.
Just do it from here.
Sure.
Hi everyone, good evening. We had all unanimous resolutions this last meeting, both DCA and SLA. Yes?
Question on the unanimous resolution.
Take all the unanimous together, second? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Call the roll on all unanimous.
Ashby. Yes. Birdbaum.
Yes.
Juarez. Yes. Brown. Camp.
Yes.
Shockey.
Yes.
Cone.
Yes.
Feather.
Yes.
Freeland. Harrington. Hartzog. Telford.
Yeah.
Johnson.
Yes.
King. Kirschenbaum.
Yes.
Later.
Yes.
Lamort. Liston. Mason. Newman. Marshall.
Yes.
Patch.
Yes.
Pope Marshall.
Yes.
Hopper.
Yes.
Feast. Yes.
Yes.
Wall.
Yes.
Walsh.
Yes.
Weiner. Yes.
Okay, while Rebecca's counting the votes, I just want to remind you of the item we had from Street Life last time, Maison, the property, the club, the drinking club that the applicant wanted to go on the second floor of that building on 85th and Lexington. We still don't have an SLA hearing date. I intend to testify. I know Abraham told me that he was as well. In the meantime, though, there is an article about that space and about the head of the club and the woman who is developing this concept in, I think it's this month's issue of Town and Country magazine. We have the link. If you're interested, just email Will and he'll. Oh, it was already emailed. I didn't realize everyone had gotten it. Okay.
Other people read it because it wasn't the same thing. It was completely different. Remember what they testified here?
They were very careful not to put the street.
Yeah. I didn't originally think it was the same one. That was
Right.
how different it was.
I know, and the renderings are quite nice. Okay, we have a unanimous approval of the items on the agenda and also a unanimous disapproval, of the resolutions of item 3B as the Street Life meeting. Thank you, Abraham. Craig?
Good evening, everyone. Where should
That's
I come
fine.
up there? First, Chuck sends his regrets that he's unable to be here tonight. And before I go on with the resolutions at hand, I just want to make a pitch for our meeting, which, as Alita said, will be on January 9th. We are going to be hopefully having representatives from DDC, from sanitation, possibly from parks and from transportation come to talk about the proposed 92nd Street ramp for the Marine Transfer Station. So I know, but for those who are interested, please put that on your calendars. So we have two resolutions for approval tonight. The first one is an application for a revocable consent at 40 East End Avenue. It was to install planters and uplighting. It was, I don't know if anyone wants to comment on that. It was a vote of 7 2, I believe. 8 to 1, excuse me. Marco?
Call the question second.
Second. All in favor of call the question? Aye. Anyone opposed? Call the roll.
Ashby?
Yes.
Birdbaum?
No.
Forrest, yes. Brown? Ham?
No.
Chalky?
Yes.
Cone? Cone? Feather?
Yes.
Wait, Cone say yes?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, Feather said yes. Freeland is not here, okay. Harrington, Hartsog, Helford?
Yes.
Johnson? Yes. King? Lamort? Yes. Liston, Mason, Newman? Yes. Marshall? Yes. Hopper?
Yes.
Price?
Yes.
Salcido?
Yes.
Sanchez?
Yes.
Snyder?
Yes.
Spagnoletti?
Yes.
Strong, Shinnitzaki? Yes. Squire?
Yes.
Smile?
Yes.
Titlebaum? Yes. Beaver? Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Wall?
Yes.
Walsh?
Yes.
Weiner?
Yes.
All right. Should I go forward while you tally?
Yes.
Okay. All right. The second resolution has to do with the debate centered around congestion pricing, or at least the concept of congestion pricing. So just a little background, just for context sake. So in 2008, we had, as a community board pricing. In 2014, we again supported congestion pricing. In this case, it was the core principles of what was the plan at the time, the Sam Schwartz base plan of which was called Fix New York. And obviously, we've seen the debate go back and forth over the past few years and hasn't really made much headway besides the for-hire vehicle fee that's going to be beginning this coming year in 2019. But with the new legislature and being controlled by the Democrats, both the Assembly and the Senate, it appears very likely that the legislature is going to move forward with this, and the governor just made clear that he views this as a major initiative. So the question was brought up, are we going to be looking into, are we going to be interested in perhaps supporting congestion pricing going forward? We had some debates earlier in the year as well, and in fact we talked about some of the complexities of congestion pricing, and we wrote a letter after our March 2018 meeting regarding some of the questions that we have. It didn't take a position, it just talked about our concerns regarding the details that existed in the 2014 plan that we were uncomfortable with. This resolution. So this was an attempt to talk about the principles, and it was framed as a proposal to reiterate our support for the concept of congestion pricing, and basically where we landed as a committee. And the vote, I believe, was 7-2, or 6-2, excuse me. No, it was 6-2. One person who voted in the first resolution had left by the end of it.
So this is incorrect. I have a question.
Oh, wait, I'm sorry, you're right. I was looking at the wrong page. So essentially where we landed with this was a proposal which urging will be dedicated to fixing and improving the New York City transit subways and buses. That is not to say that we are supporting congestion pricing per se. It was not explicitly mentioned for that reason. Piece of information. Sustainability Advisory Work Group. This is basically the governor's commission that's working to address all these issues. They released their report, so I've been actually just scrambling to try to jot down notes to highlight what's in there, because it does address many of these issues, and this is going to be the likely framework for what the legislature and the governor are going to consider as they put together a bill. So this is a wide-ranging report, and I recommend if anyone's interested in reading it, because it talks about everything from reforming the governance structure of the MTA with even talking about the possibility of even, and they're not, this isn't a recommendation, but even mentioning, it is just.
No, because you have to vote on what happened at the committee. So this new information it can be taken up at another meeting, but when you're talking about a resolution, it's what happened at the committee. You can't add stuff. You can take it up again in January, but you can't add stuff to this. He's giving more information.
Yeah, it's just background purposes. So they were, as I was saying, they were even talking about the possibility of breaking the MTA up or dissolving it and recreating it into a new structure. But it talks about other things that we've mentioned, such as lock boxes and dedicated new revenues exclusively for MTA capital construction, ending placard abuse to reduce congestion, relieving congestion by tour and sightseeing bus activity, and then of course there's the congestion pricing piece. And what they've put forward here is a congestion pricing zone in the region's commercial center with revenues exclusively dedicated to the MTA capital program and associated operating expenses, which they believe would generate up to $1 billion per year and result in a 15 to 20% increase in average vehicle speeds. Variable, as they recommend variable charges, which would mean minimal charges on evenings and weekends, and it must consider transit capacity. And it would, their proposal currently would be for either the continuation of the current Easy Pass rates or an 8% increase, and it could be higher for the central business district. And in terms of and that was a consensus recommendation coming out of this report. Other measures that were non-consensus recommendations included accelerating existing city and state commitments to the capital program for higher vehicle cruising, the urban tax, capturing federal corporate tax reduction windfall. So I don't know if people find that relevant, but I didn't want to go forward with this resolution, given that there was an update to this.
And you could decide if that affects how you would vote on the resolution that was put forward by the Transportation Committee.
Or do you want to withdraw? Is that what you're?
No, I'm not saying to withdraw, because honestly, I think where we stand is, I think where we stand right now is this is a recommendation to the legislature and the governor, and essentially we're putting forward as a resolution of nature as well. Michelle.
There was a very, very, very lengthy conversation on congestion pricing at this meeting and at a prior meeting. A couple of points were made. The 2008 vote that the 2014 vote supported, and that now this resolution refers to. The original one was the Mayor Bloomberg one. I was around for that. It was, it had far different rates and all that. But having said all that, between 2008 and now, we probably have more than a 50% turnover on the board. It was my feeling that the issue of congestion pricing should not refer, our resolutions should not refer to our past resolutions, whether in support or not in support, because we don't have the same board makeup. In certain issues which are not terribly controversial, very controversial topic, and not only is it controversial, we have no details, and the devil for this is in the details. There were no details presented to us. They don't know where the zone is. They don't know what the price is going to be. They don't know what is going to happen to the bridges. They don't know what's going to happen to the drive. There were more not knowing than there was knowing. So in an effort, my contention was that there shouldn't have been a resolution because we have no information, and whether or not the state legislature does something or doesn't do something, if we want to take an action, we have to take an action on what they're proposing. So to my mind, there was no reason to get ahead of it because we were getting ahead of nothing. We had no information. So there were a few of us that would not have supported a resolution that specifically stated congestion pricing support. So as a way to get around that, but to have a resolution, we came up with this, therefore be it resolved, that we have a proposal that will result in reduction. But to me, It was a subterfuge because it's the same as saying that you're supporting congestion pricing because that's the only thing that's on the table in Albany. So to dance around this and to make believe that, oh, well, we said this, so we don't mean congestion pricing, we're going to come up with something completely different, to me, it was a false narrative. It's a resolution that shouldn't have happened. And to vote on it is you basically voting, you're either voting on nothing or you're voting to support congestion pricing. I think it's premature. We don't have enough information.
All right, thank you, Michelle. Barry?
Won't be the first time.
Excuse me?
I said it won't be the first time.
You're right. More importantly, though, however, this resolution does not refer to the resolution taken by the board in 2008 or 2014. The wording is very, very clear. We're suggesting that the state legislature formulate a proposal that will result in what? Reducing traffic congestion in the Manhattan Central Business District and generate a stable fund for that. That's all this resolution does. It makes us in the forefront of trying to rationalize the terrible problem we're having with traffic in the Central Business District, which is choking the city now, and if not controlled, will lay the demise of New York City as the world's leading city. So let's be serious and let's be careful about what we're arguing. We're arguing, please, Mr. Governor and Mr. State Legislatures, please take a look at this and come up with a plan that will address these issues. It's nothing more and nothing less.
I have a point of information. Is there a title to the resolution? I mean, when it gets presented, does it have a title of congestion pricing? That it's actually presented with some kind of title that isn't included in the wording of the resolution. And the reason that I asked that question is because this item number refers to congestion pricing, even though the wording of the resolution itself does not. And so to the extent that this purports not to be about congestion pricing, I just want to make sure it's sort of consistent in that way. But it's a question.
I don't know that we ever have formal titles, do we?
Well, I think it sounded to me, and I could be wrong, Russell, correct me, that what Russell is saying is that as long as you don't refer in some kind of descriptive line that it's a congestion pricing item.
Right.
I mean, your resolutions do typically say regarding
right.
this issue.
We'll have to explicitly not say that, of course, because it's not stated in the resolution. But for the purposes of how we just set up the minutes, it was a little challenging just because it was originally promoted as a consideration of reiterating prior resolutions.
May I suggest a title? If you leave a title, mitigation of congestion pricing in Manhattan Central Business District.
Congestion, not pricing.
No word pricing.
Right. You just said pricing.
I'm sorry. Sorry. That was a typo.
Yeah. All right. Dean?
Call the question.
Second.
Oh, okay.
Oh, I didn't know that there was a, okay. Oh, there was no motion. There was?
Well, the motion is the resolution as presented.
Okay.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Yes.
Well, then ask them to raise their hand.
All right.
There's some disagreement on whether it's an appropriate time to call the question, so just do a rate.
All right. All in favor of calling the question?
Aye.
All opposed to calling the question?
Now you have to count.
All right. All right. Let's start with all in favor. We'll count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. All opposed.
You count yourself?
I counted myself, yes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Wait, let me start over. I'm sorry. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16.
17, 18.
Okay.
The nays have it.
Nays have it.
Okay, so more discussion.
Point of information. Without the latest effort that what you told us, would it have made a difference to the voting tonight?
It could have.
Well, Not to me.
Wait, do you mean, I'm not following, are you saying if I didn't say this, would it have changed anything?
Voting how?
I don't think that's a question that could be answered. I think it would be inappropriate to have information that directly relates to this and not present it if it's something that we would read tomorrow and say, well, why did we take action if the news had come out before this meeting?
But it doesn't really relate to it.
Yes.
I think there's some questions.
All right. Rita?
This is just a point of information. Is it true that FedEx, UPS, Fresh Direct, etc., have a blanket amount of tickets that
Yes.
they pay for on a monthly basis, and no matter how many tickets they get? Is that true?
Yes. Yes.
They pay an annual lump sum to
That's
the city
crazy.
regardless of how many tickets go on the machine.
Right.
Thank you. I just wanted clarification.
I told her she was making it up.
All right, Elaine.
Okay. I want to speak, but I'm going to defer to Barbara because her arm has been up since you started.
Yeah,
and then I'd like to come back to
I
it.
had a question, but now I want to continue on what Michelle was saying. When I looked at this, and I have real questions about congestion pricing, because I worked in East New York with very poor tenants that all had to have cars because there was no public transportation into Manhattan that they can get there. So I have questions about it. But when I read this, it's misleading. Now I hear it's purposely misleading, which I think is a little outrageous. So of course I'm going to vote no, because I wanted to know originally if this meant congested pricing. It does. So that's what now I'm saying it as a statement.
All right, Elizabeth?
Defer back to Elaine.
Elaine then Elizabeth.
Yeah. In reading this and looking at 2008, and I will self-disclose, I'm the president of the East 86th Street Association. And we were the only civic group that opposed congestion pricing for good reasons. And I would not want our community to be the leaders if this went into effect. The border will be moved to 60th Street, and we will have the congestion pricing. It is unclear if it's all day, part of the day. Last time it was to 10 in the morning, and we knew at 86, that was the border, that we would have the cars lined up waiting to go downtown. We have no idea what this is about, and you know, there's an expression, what is it? Don't wish for what's the expression? Be careful what you wish for. Thank you very much. It's Tuesday, not Wednesday. So I'm concerned about this. I think that it is an imposition not on the 5 boroughs, but in particular on Manhattanites, because we will be paying to drive within our own community. And remember, we're an island. We're locked in. We have no other means of getting around in many times. But it's not our issue. The issue is that Uber and everybody else, we would not see what we're seeing. And it also goes with the single lanes that they're putting in on every road. I'm sorry, I'm opposed to this, totally.
When the Transportation Committee took this up in March, there were a lot of these same issues that were raised, including what's going to happen in our community. Is it going to be a dumping ground for people leaving their cars? Or all of the parking spaces, whether in garages or on the streets, going to be taken up? What happens to people who need accessible vehicles? What happens to people on buses? What happens to trucks? They use Canal Street now because the Verrazano Bridge is so expensive. Are they going to toll the 59th Street Bridge? There were a whole bunch of questions. And so my question is, and you know, we've talked about this a little bit, is what about all of the concerns of CB8 in this? Because our concerns, as Elaine and Elizabeth, and I see Marco nodding his head, are not the same as CB6 or CB5 or 4. They're specific to us.
Right, so speaking for what the committee had done, taking action, this isn't me speaking personally, this action was taken because there is a belief that we should be showing our support for, originally it was congestion pricing. It didn't turn out to be that way as we had voted as a committee, but originally it was brought to our attention as we're going to be dealing with this issue going forward, and we needed to, or we should be, in our location here in CB8, being at the forefront and showing our support for the state process to move forward with the core principles of reducing congestion and addressing the funding shortfalls that exist that largely are contributing to what we see every day in terms of the breakdown of our transportation system. That was the intent of doing this. The reason that we are always looking at principles or the core concepts or whatever the language would be was because we weren't ready as far as how they affect us as a community. And there's certainly going to be many details that are going to be learned as we go forward, and that was part of the reason why it was important to at least show what the commission that's really going to be driving the state as they move forward with developing the specific language, where their headspace is right now, because we don't know what those specific details are, but by them saying that it's going to be essentially these fees, perhaps more in the central business district, I think it speaks to the fact that there are still some uncertainties, and we're going to have to, whether we had taken action tonight or not, it's going to come back to us, and we're going to, as long as they don't just steamroll this in such quick time, in such a quick fashion that we don't have the ability to address it, it's going to certainly come back to us.
Do you think there's a risk that if we approve this, that they could steamroll it, knowing that various community boards in Manhattan support it? I'm just raising the question.
I honestly have no idea. I'd have to imagine it's not going to all be worked out in the first few weeks. What type of public outreach is going to need to be done before they feel comfortable taking action? That could be a political disaster as well. So you'd have to, I thought I heard the governor mention something regarding by April 1st he wants to see some of his legislative priorities actually have moved forward. So I assume we'd have to move on it pretty quickly. But until we have specific details, I think the message we're getting tonight is we're not ready to do anything before those specifics are in place. Yeah.
I agree a lot with what Alita said and what Michelle said. I have concerns about us putting a sort of consent to the theory of congestion pricing and its principles without knowing the details, how it will affect us, where the line will be drawn, the hours, how much it will cost, like if there will be any exemptions for Manhattan residents. And we won't be a part of those conversations if we realize it's not palatable to us. We've already put our support out there. So in the committee, I voiced this, that I'm very middle of the road on this issue. I want to see my subways work better, but I also drive a car, so I don't want to get hit too big with like an $11 fee when I drive around the island. But still, I don't want to vote on something, and I'm very apprehensive about us putting support behind it, where, like Alita said, the governor and the legislature will use it as a rubber stamp, and as Russell alluded to, you know, we know electeds, they're not necessarily going to read the whole thing, so if they see, for congestion pricing, they may just take it as us consenting to the issue. So I would much rather us wait until we see a plan. It most likely will be out fresh in the new year, because the governor is going to want to get it done in the budget, as he's alluding to heavily, and I think we will have not much time, but I'd like some time to put our thoughts out there. We've already put them out there in March, and we can just continue echoing them and make sure we're a part of the conversation and not take ourselves out of it by just being like, yeah, we're cool, we want to see this dealt with, and not knowing exactly how it will be and how it will affect us.
All right, Elizabeth, then Adam, then Peggy.
I'd like to make a suggestion around the problem. We obviously are against traffic congestion. We're obviously for improving the subways. And so I think perhaps this resolution, be it therefore resolved, could become palatable to both sides if we separated it. And instead of saying we support a proposal that does A and B, we can recommend two proposals, one that does A and one that does B, so that we don't interlock them, which is what pedestrian pricing plan does. So we can support what you want to support without creating the link to congestion pricing.
Okay, that, I guess that's for people, the board to move forward with if they're interested. Adam?
My question, do we know where CBs 4, 5, and 6 stand on this, or are they holding back and waiting to hear from like 7 and 8? Do we know?
I haven't seen anything myself.
I know 6 supported the last iteration of congestion pricing that led to all of our concerns back in the spring. I don't know right now what they're saying, but they're the eye of the storm for that, along with the others. I just don't know the
4 or
others'
5,
position.
obviously.
Right, but they're also coming from a very different perspective. They would be inside the congestion zone, and they probably are thinking of congestion in a different way than we are. So I don't know that.
I think that the southerly portions of all 3 of those are kind of like what Elaine was bringing up. You know, with 14th Street is, you know, they'll have the same issues as.
It would be all the way through Lower Manhattan. 60th
all the
Street.
way.
60th Street down was the 2014 proposal, and while this report didn't explicitly state what the boundaries would be going forward, they did include a map from 2014 as an example. So it's likely that the 60th Street boundary will not change, but I don't want to make any promises since they haven't made any commitments yet either. Peggy?
Yeah, I think I'd be comfortable voting when I heard more from the public, what they think. So I was I know the public can go to a meeting, but they don't tend to, a committee meeting, but they don't tend to in any number. I really love to see a forum that the Transportation Committee could put on, for example, that would really outreach the public and get more people in and get more input about where the public stands and what they, you know, if we're going to have congestion pricing, how they see it working with our community. And one of the things also occurs to me, you know, with the Marine Transfer Station coming, we're going to have even more traffic up and down the main arteries with the garbage trucks. So we have to keep that in mind. But just to reiterate, is there any chance that you could put on a forum that would really get more public?
I think there's always been an interest in having a forum. Again, I think we run into the same challenges because we're going to be talking in theory until there is a plan out there, and we can aim to have something, see if we can organize something, and hopefully it's not moot by the point that we would hold it, but it would take some...
Maybe we can invite some of our elected officials up to Albany and see what they're thinking or what's going on up there and make sure they know what concerns, if any, as expressed are. But I would say that that's a good idea, but it's up to you.
I'll definitely talk with Chuck about that. Personally, I would love to be able to see that. I think we'll try to see how we could work that out, given with the holidays being...
I don't think you have to do it next week.
No, but it's going to be a logistical challenge to try to thread that needle in terms of timing.
Yes.
Kaz?
Congestion, but do not support congestion pricing unless we have further details. No, I'm just throwing it out there for the...
I don't think anybody is
I don't know what that does to move this forward.
We support alleviating congestion,
Yes,
don't
but
we?
who doesn't?
That's what this says.
Right, so that's what Peggy's suggesting. Not Peggy, that's what Elizabeth was suggesting in terms of having separate resolutions for that. I don't know that moves this debate forward or not, but that's up to everyone to, if someone wants to make the motion, by all means. Wait, Peter and then Michelle.
I'm hearing a concern that I share, which is trying to vote on a proposal where we don't actually know what the substance of the proposal is. It reminds me a little bit of the charter revision, where actual proposed balloting or ballots showed up in such a time frame that we couldn't actually have an informed discussion and input on that. So as another, I'm actually sympathetic to what you're saying, Kaz, and another alternative, if it's the will of the group, is to say, we'd like to request that the legislature and the governor, adopt a set of proposals and make them publicly available on a timely basis so that we could actually have informed input on, our point of view regarding that proposal.
You had called on me next.
Yes.
I'm hearing some people suggest tabling tonight, which I could also.
What I would suggest is either voting this down and just leaving the topic alone, and then Alita, if you're willing, to write a letter to our state representatives telling them that this is a great concern to us because we know it's coming, and can they get as many details to us as possible, as soon as possible, so that we can hold a forum or meet, whatever you want to say, but that we either vote this down tonight or we table it. I don't think I can make that motion now because now I spoke, but and if we do, if someone moves to table, don't put a date on it. So either vote this down or table it. But clearly there's no information here, and it was just an end run around some people's sentiments.
I think Barry.
Take a vote on tabling then.
Who's doing the roll here?
No, but you have to vote on the table.
Yeah. Thank you, Rebecca.
Voting on the table. Ashby. Yes, was that a?
Pass.
Pass, okay, sorry. Birnbaum.
Yes.
Forrest.
Yes.
Brown. Yes. Camp.
Yes.
Shockey.
Yes.
Cone.
Yes.
Deluzio.
He's
Feather.
Yes.
Freeland. Harrington.
Yes.
Hartzog. Helford.
No.
Johnson.
Yes.
King. Kirschenbaum.
Yes.
Later.
No.
One more. Yes. Liston. Mason. Newman.
Yes.
Marshall.
Yes.
Patch.
Yes.
Coe Marshall.
No.
Hopper.
No. Yes.
One of those.
Falling asleep.
Price.
No.
Price.
Yes.
Okay. Salcido.
Yes.
Sanchez.
No.
Schneider.
Yes.
Spagnoletti.
Yes.
Strong Shinizaki.
Yes.
Squire.
Yes.
Tamayo.
Yeah.
Titlebaum.
Yes.
Seaver.
Yes.
Biest.
Yes.
Wald.
Yes.
Walsh.
Yes.
Wiener.
Yes.
Passes. Ashby.
Yes.
Forrest.
No. Okay, while Rebecca's tallying those up, I just want to tell you for the earlier transportation on the revocable consent or revocable consent, 30 yeses and 2 nos. Yeah, let's do the vote first, Barry, please. Thank you. Okay. On the motion to table the congestion issue, 28 yeses and 5 nos. Go ahead, Barry.
Good evening, all. I'll be brief. We have one resolution of the Parks Committee. There's a cul-de-sac at the east end of 72nd Street. Has benches, trees, very nice, used to be a nice cobblestone walkway. It's in disrepair, so we're asking the Parks Department to take a look, see who owns it, or in the meantime, fix what they can fix. Let's find out who owns it, and if possible, later on, convert it into a public park. Any questions? Oh, that is. Call the questions. All in favor? Opposed? Call the roll, please.
Ashby? Yes.
I'll stand here and pretend I
Birnbaum?
don't think so.
Abstain.
Boris, yes. Brown? Brown? Lorraine? Did you vote? Yes. Okay, thank you. I didn't hear you. Yes? Yes.
Okay.
Yeah?
Camp,
Yes.
Chalky,
Yes.
Cone, Feather,
Yes.
Freeland, Harrington,
Yeah.
Hartzog, Halpern,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
King, Kirschenbaum,
Yes.
Later,
Yes.
Lamort,
Yes.
Liston, Mason, Newman. Newman's not here? Partial?
Yes.
Hatch?
Yes.
Hope Mar-
Yes.
Price?
Yes.
Salcido?
Yes.
Sanchez? Schneider?
Yes.
Spagnoletti?
Yes.
Strong Shinizaki?
Yes.
Squire?
Yes.
Tamayo?
Yes.
Titlebaum?
Yes.
Beaver?
Yes.
Viest?
Yes.
Wall?
Yes.
Walsh?
Yes.
Wiener?
Yes.
Okay, while they're counting it up, I'll start with the Charter Review Commission. The task force met last week and came up with a resolution on items that we would ask the 2019 Charter Review Commission to incorporate in its analysis of the charter and hopefully inclusion as in the buckets of what it's considering for ballot proposals. It was a lengthy balances, payment to city vendors, street no's and no abstentions and no voting for causes at the task force meeting. Jane? Okay. Alexandra?
Ashby.
Yes.
Birnbaum.
Yes.
Forrest.
Yes.
Brown. Camp.
Yes.
Shockey.
Yes.
Cone.
Yes.
Feather.
Yes.
Harrington, yes. Hartzog. Halpern.
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes.
Kirschenbaum.
Yes.
Later.
Yes.
Lamort.
Yes.
Newman. Marshall.
Yeah.
Hatch.
Yes.
Vote Marshall.
Yes.
Hopper.
Yes.
Price.
Yes.
Salcido.
Yes.
Sanchez.
Yes.
Schneider.
Yes.
Spagnoletti.
Yes.
Strong.
Yes.
Squire.
Yes.
Tamayo.
Yes. Thank you.
Titlebaum.
Yes.
Beaver.
Yes.
Viest.
Yes.
Wald.
Yes.
Walsh.
Yes.
Wiener.
Yes.
On Parks, on the resolution from Parks Committee, we have 31 yeses, 0 noes, and 1 abstention. Okay, Barbara, while they're counting.
Lorraine and I will do street fairs.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see Lorraine go up there.
No, she's here. We're both doing it from down here.
Wait, give Lorraine.
Take this mic. That mic's built for something else.
For show? Okay, there were 10 items on the agenda. They all passed unanimously, 2-0 to 0. None of them were new items. Rita?
Take all the items, all the questions.
Okay, all in favor of calling the question? Oh, is there a second? Okay, all in favor of calling the question? Okay, please call the roll. I just want to say we're going to, from now on, schedule a street fair committee. It'll be the third Tuesday of every month. If we have no items, we'll cancel the meeting.
Okay, can you give me the numbers of all the ones that are anonymous?
All of them, all 10.
All 10?
All 10.
All right, wow, that's great. Okay, Ashby? Yes. Birnbaum?
Yes.
Boris, yes. Brown? Yes. Camp?
Yes.
Jockey?
Yes.
Cone?
Yes.
Freeland Harrington?
Yes.
Hartzog? Halpern?
Yes.
Johnson?
Yes.
King? Kirschenbaum?
Yes.
Later?
Yes.
Lamort?
The questions. I just have the questions.
Liston? Mason? Newman? Newman's not here. Marshall?
Yes.
Hatch?
Yes.
Hope Marshall?
Yes.
Popper?
Yes.
Price?
Yes.
Salcido?
Yes.
Sanchez? Schneider?
Yes.
Spagnoletti?
Yes.
Strong Shinzaki?
Yes.
Squire?
Yes.
Tamayo?
Yes.
Titlebaum?
Yes.
Beaver?
Yes.
Viest?
Yes.
Wald?
Yes.
Walsh?
Yes.
Wiener?
Yes.
Michelle, you
Yeah,
have a
I
question?
just have a quick question. On number 4, the Grove, New York City application, there are 3 locations here. I'm not sure, my recollection, not to change anything for tonight, but my recollection is that we took them separately. Are they separate applications?
There were 3 separate applications, but we took them all together, because there was one applicant for all of them.
No, I get it. But in the future, since I have different feelings about different locations, forget about tonight, I voted yes. I just like them.
Okay, well, you'll be at the meetings. I told you when the meetings are. We'll take them separately next year.
Thank you.
Okay, on the charter revision, it was a unanimous 32 yeses. Thank you, that will go to those guys. Whoops. Sorry, I almost threw that out. Recycled it. Okay, and on the street fairs, it was 31 yeses, unanimous. Thank you. Okay, Jane and David.
We heard 5 applications actually last night, so David and I get a shout out for doing these resolutions so quickly.
Yes, you did.
And I'm sorry, that was kind of, I don't know.
No, you were up all night. Thank you.
In any case, 3 of them were unanimous. 1, 3, and 4.
One was a disapproval.
One, well, we'll just take them together. Thank you. Was there a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Call the roll.
Ashby.
Yes.
Berghoff.
Yes.
Flores.
Yes.
Brown. Camp.
Yes.
Chalky.
Yes.
Cohen.
Oh, yes.
Cohen was a yes?
Yes.
Okay. Freeland, not here. Harrington.
Yes.
Feather.
Yes.
Hartzog. Helper.
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes.
King. Kirschenbaum.
Yes.
Later.
Yes.
Lamort, yes. Liston. Mason. Newman. Partial.
Yes.
Hatch.
Yes.
Pope Marshall.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Hopper. Oh, you answered for Pope Marshall. Oh, sorry. Sorry. Pope Marshall? No? Okay. Hopper was a yes. Price?
Yes.
Salcido?
Yes.
Sanchez?
Yes.
Schneider?
Yes.
Spagnoletti?
Yes.
Strong Shinazaki?
Yes.
Squire? Yes. Beaver?
Yes.
Diaz?
Yes.
Wall?
Yes.
Walsh?
Yes.
Weiner?
Next item is number 2, 479th Street. This is for a temporary fence and gate. This is a house that's one house in from 5th Avenue. They've extended the bus stop in front of the house, and the public, in fact, is on their property now. There are 2 fences right now on either side of the house that actually turn back in and frame an opening to the center of the house and the central door entrance. So what the owner would like to do is to put up a temporary fence, which is an ornamental fence, 4 feet high instead of the 8 foot high, which is the 2 fences either side. This ornamental fence would be freestanding. It's straight, turns back very slightly to stabilize it. It does not touch the fences that turn back with the curved, number two, that turn back with the curved turns, but they do come very close. And the owner says that they will take this temporary fence and remove it at such time as the bus stop is relocated, which supposedly it will be relocated, but we're told that's 3 years now and it has not yet been relocated. So this was a very close vote, but it was passed because it was 5-5, but public member voted in favor of it, so in the committee level it was passed. So right now we have a motion to approve. And I know somebody wants to talk against it. Anthony.
Yes, hi. I voted to disapprove, or voted against approval. And there are actually 3 reasons. I worked on this building when it was extensively renovated, now 20 years ago almost. We started the project in 1998 when I was working at Swanky Haven Connell, and I was the senior designer on the project. But there are 3 reasons why I think that this proposal should be disapproved. And first of all, the new fence.
It's on the property line.
Yes, it is.
It's not within their property.
Yep.
The sidewalks, and I don't remember, not the truth, it's 20 years ago, I don't remember the outcome of the specific discussion, but the existing fence, which aligns with an existing fence of the building on the corner, and then steps back to the entrance, in fact, is largely in what is technically the public right-of-way. The resulting sidewalk on the south side of 79th Street there is not quite 8 feet wide. The sidewalk on the north side of 79th Street is 20 feet wide. So in fact, while it's sort of, it looks like it's belongs to the owner of 4079th Street, it does not. Now that's the first reason. The second reason is an aesthetic one, that the scale of the intervention seems sort of dwarfed by the existing fence. That's aesthetics. The third, however, is that the existing fence, which dates from a 1916 renovation of the original 1899 townhouse, is a character-defining element of the streetscape of that house. And with its curved fence that then steps back toward an entrance which has been open to the street since 1916, in much the same way that the fence of the corner house has been open to the street at its entrance, which is in its center. Both buildings are by the same architect, originally more or less from the same period. And I think obscuring the way that character-defining element relates to the street, and in fact to the front door of the building, which is quite beautiful, will diminish both the building and the streetscape, which is why I would urge us to oppose approving this.
Is there somebody who voted in favor who would like to speak to it? Marco, you want to speak?
Well, yes, I voted in favor. However, I had to change my vote. Why? Because I remember when I was going home, said I too.
Marco, show your picture. Use your microphone. Marco, you have a picture, so
Yes,
this
I
is
know.
what we're talking about.
When I went to my house, I was thinking, yes, I took the bus at the corner of north side of the 79th Street. And it was very conflicted to go inside of the bus. Then immediately I said, wait a minute. When the applicant came to us, the first thing that he told us is people go inside of their lot. Inside of me, I said right away, that's not fair because people cannot go inside of private property. When I analyzed carefully, the sidewalk on the north side as well as the south side is 20 feet wide. Therefore, what they have, the applicant, is what is called a grandfather. So that means he can keep what he has, encroaching the public way without no problem. When at the time when he wants to add something to protect his space that he considers, now they increase the non-compliance, increase the grandfather, and therefore is unlawful. So this is why I turned down and I changed my mind. Because in the way that he was presented, I saw just one angle, the presentation of the fence, which was beautiful, and I like it, and I had to be in disagreement with you. But from the legal point of view, that basically belongs to the public way. And it shouldn't be given an opportunity to enclose this person because he feels uncomfortable. Now, it's true that he has that space, but he has to go back and discuss with the MTA to relocate this bus location. That's my point of view. Thank you. And this is where I changed my vote, and I strongly recommend to disapprove.
Michelle.
Yeah, I disapproved on aesthetics. And Marco, I believe you have a picture.
Oh, yes.
I would just like you to see this because aesthetically, look at the bottom here. This is the front of this house. These are the two 8-foot fences. This is the temporary that they are proposing. Just look how messy and busy that is. It's just, can you see it over there? I mean, I'll pass it around, but a picture's worth 1,000 words. It's too busy and it's just not appropriate. I urge you to disapprove it. And they don't really need it either.
Can we hear from someone who heard three people, it would just be for balance. I'd like to hear from somebody who approved of it.
Is there anybody who wants to speak in favor of it?
I have a question.
David, you should speak.
I'll step away and I'll use the microphone.
Russell has a question.
Yes.
My question is there any issue, I know that the concern, I guess, is that there are people waiting for the bus stop and they don't want them in the private property, but is there any issue where the bus stop is so congested that they need that sort of spillover? So it's not part of this. There's plenty of space for
Yes,
that.
they can move up and down the block. I don't think that's a problem. When I have a lot of faith in the research that was done by these two gentlemen. The other side of the coin is when these professionals come to us, technically they meet the zoning and they meet the building code, and they've been through the building department, as well as going to landmarks. They can't go to landmarks with certificate of appropriateness without an approval from the Department of Buildings. So at this point in time, as much as I would appreciate their research, I'm going on the assumption that the professional did his job and that this fence will be a legal fence. Number two, as far as the aesthetics go, this was a very, very difficult design project. I agree with Marco that if people have property that is theirs, that they control, that they shouldn't be allowing the public on it if they don't want to. And there was a whole discussion of the 8-foot high fence versus the 4-foot high. If they made it 8 foot high, then there was the whole sense of this fence being so high that it almost would feel like the building was jailed in. By doing the 4-foot high fence, there was still a sense of welcome, a sense of openness in relation to the central door. So the other thing is that they tried very hard to make the fence part of the feeling of the area, because the base of the fence is on a continuous granite curb. The other fence is on a granite curb. The decorative elements at the base of the fence are the same as the tall fence, and the arrowheads at the top of the verticals are the same as the tops of the 8-foot high fence. I think that the designers had a very difficult problem. They solved it functionally. I think they solved it aesthetically the best they could, and in my judgment, it was certainly approvable. Cause.
So the only reason they're objecting is that people are standing in front of their entryway.
No, they're standing in their property, in their entryway.
No,
well, there is no fence now.
But they're not standing inside their
They're standing, what was presented.
On the steps that lead to the entranceway, they're sitting and, yes. The people waiting for the bus are on private property.
So if they're in Manhattan, there are thousands of buildings where bus stops are. People get under the awnings, the buildings. So what's different about this building that there's people standing on part of their property, a foot step or something? So
Elaine.
This is no position because we have.
No, there is a position. There is I had a ruling on this, and the ruling on this is that the committee has a position.
The board members vote count as a committee, but not in full board.
So there is a ruling the public members vote is counting with the committee?
That is correct.
It doesn't count. I checked the bylaws today.
Okay.
It doesn't count. It counts as a public member vote.
But it
For the
doesn't count.
committee,
It
it does
doesn't
not
count.
count.
It counts to bring it to you as a resolution. It doesn't count as a vote in the full board.
Right, correct. Was that your point, Nick?
Yeah.
This is an approval.
This is an approval. All in favor of calling the question?
Aye.
Opposed? Please call the roll.
No. Boris, yes. Brown?
Yes.
Camp?
No.
Chalky?
No.
Cone?
no.
Freeland? Harrington?
Pass.
Pass. Hartzog? Helper?
Yes.
Johnson?
No.
King? Kirschenbaum?
Pass.
Later?
Yes.
Lamort?
Yes.
Liston? Mason? Newman? Newman? Partial?
Yes.
Patch?
No.
Pope Marshall?
Yes.
Popper?
No.
Price? Salcido?
No.
Sanchez?
Yes.
Schneider?
Yes.
Spagnoletti?
No.
Strong Shinazaki?
No.
Squire?
Yes.
Tamayo?
No.
Titlebaum?
Yes.
Yes. Kirschenbaum?
Yes. And Feather.
And Feather, I'm sorry. Feather, no.
Okay. It didn't pass.
Okay.
It didn't pass.
Okay, on the prior landmarks resolutions where there was unanimous voting at the committee meeting, the vote here was 30 yeses, 0 noes.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Do we know the count yet?
10, 11, 12,
Hmm?
13, 14.
It failed?
16, 17.
Does
It's
somebody
15
want-
yes and 17 no.
Does somebody want to make another resolution? Or Michelle?
Move to disapprove.
Second.
Yeah,
All in
15
favor?
yeses, 17 noes.
Call the question.
Call the question, yeah. Second.
Second. We'll do this again.
Call the roll.
Okay.
This is a motion to disapprove.
To disapprove.
Disapproval, yes means no.
Okay, wait a minute, let's just do this. Okay, disapproval. Okay, Ashby.
Yes.
Birnbaum.
Yes.
Boris, no. Brown.
No.
Camp.
Yes.
Jockey.
Yes.
Cone.
Yes.
Freeland Harrington. Hartzog. Helpburn.
Yes. Oh, this is to disapprove. No.
Wait, yeah.
No.
So you want no,
No.
right? Okay, hold on. Johnson.
Yes.
King. Kirschenbaum.
No.
Later.
No.
Lamort. Liston, Mason, Newman. Partial.
No.
No.
Price.
Yes. I think
What?
I'm really very tired.
Popper is yes. Okay, hold on. Okay, Price.
Yes.
Salcido.
Yes.
Sanchez.
No.
Schneider.
No.
Spagnoletti. Strong, Tamayo. Fever. Biest.
No.
Did I call Feather?
Yes. Or Feather, yes.
Okay.
I have a question, David, but it depends on the vote. It's about how the resolution will read.
Resolution.
Will disapproval pass? Well, here officially.
So simple.
There's a whereas clause that the proposed fence and gate are set in line with the east-west portions of the existing fence along the property line of the house. But from what Marco and Anthony said tonight, that's.
I'll take
not
out the words
accurate.
property line, just since there's a question as to whether it is on the property line or not.
So what will you do? I'm
I'll
sorry.
just say it's in line with the fence, that's all.
Okay.
Just take out the word property line and change it from approved to disapproved. The description doesn't change.
No, I understand, I just was curious about that, thank you for your. Okay, so the vote on that was on disapproval, 17 yeses and 15 noes.
You changed your vote.
So it's unanimous.
This is on part B.
B or?
Yeah. Okay, well, this is a very beautiful 1888 stable turned into a garage in 1912, being turned into a medical building in 2019, and it's beautifully done. So most of it was unanimous approval in Part A, and Part B, you heard from the gentleman from Manners, and they're going to look at some of the other issues in Part B. But with Barry's change of vote, it's unanimous, Part A and Part B. So Part A is to approve, Part B is to disapprove, and thank you. All in favor? They're both unanimous, and we don't normally take approvals and disapprovals together, but there's a precedent tonight, so we will do that.
Ashby.
Yes.
I'm sorry. Hold on. That means one is approval and
One is a
the other
disapproval.
The approval is a unanimous approval, the disapproval is a unanimous disapproval.
Birnbaum.
Yes.
Boris. Yes.
Brown. Camp.
Yes.
Jockey. Yes. Cone. Yes. Harrington, yes. Helpburn.
Yes.
Oh, Feather.
Yes.
Sorry. Feather.
Yes.
Johnson. Kirschenbaum.
Yes.
Later. Yes.
Hatch. Hope Marshall.
Yes.
Hopper.
Yes.
Price. Yes. Salcido.
Yes.
Sanchez. Schneider.
Yes.
Spagnoletti.
Yes.
Strong.
Yes.
Squire.
Yeah.
Mayo.
Yes.
Titlebaum.
Yes.
Seaver. Zia.
Yes.
Wall.
Yes.
Walsh.
Yes.
Wiener. Sharon.
Sherry, vote.
Oh, yeah, yes.
I just want to point out that I'm not so sure joining the approval and the disapproval is a precedent worth keeping for
Well,
the
we did
future.
it on one of the,
I know we did it, I know tonight, but I just mean move
Unanimous approval,
forward.
arguably part of the unanimous part anyway also. You could say that the unanimous approval that's part A was part of the unanimous other stuff that we did get from the funds. It doesn't really matter.
Almost did. Just as soon as we have the vote. Okay, so we have 32 yeses on that joined approval, disapproval on the last item. Northwell Health Facility to be on East 75th Street. And with that, is there a motion to adjourn? Oh, yeah, 1 second. Will, just before we do that, Will has a point, and Lori has a question.
In your packets tonight is a memo from the board to Marymount. If anybody was at the most recent street fair or street life meeting, you noticed there was a lot of people there. This is a memo on handling situations where there are too many people at the Marymount facility because they asked us nicely not to come back, and we made this memo so that we have a protocol in place that they're allowing us to continue to use their space. So hold on to that memo. If you need another copy of it, feel free. The
President? Or security?
the president.
The president?
A reporter from New York One showed up, and this was the second meeting that in like about 3 months that we had community people show up at that facility.
Alina, you may want to do a
You know
phone
what?
call, Tom.
There was an issue.
We've spoken to them.
Okay.
There was an issue
The
with,
noise handled it.
with postings. There is a building on East 82nd Street that is, what is the name, Abraham? The Cultural Center, the Safra Center, that's right. And someone or some group took the green signs of the postings of the Street Life Committee to look into the request for a liquor license for that facility, placed it on a larger sheet of green paper with comments, they spelled it wrong, but basically it was stop the insanity, with reasons that that particular item should be disapproved. So what they did was not only against the law in tampering with city government property, but a manipulation and a deception of what the posting was for, which was just an announcement of the meeting. They made it look like their comments in opposition to the request for a liquor license were the voice of the Street Life Committee and the Community Board. If you see any postings like this, please bring it to Will's attention and my attention. And those were the people who had called, I mean, I don't know if it were them or they, but people came, a lot of people came and turned up to the meeting at Marymount when they couldn't stay in the room because they violated the fire code, and they went to the lobby. They called New York One to complain that people weren't being admitted to the public session of the Community Board committee meeting. So there were a lot of problems emanating from this. But if you see postings or anything that manipulates the Community Board like that, please bring it to our attention. It's of great, take it down. And let us know so that it could be reposted, but it was of great concern. They made a significant effort to misrepresent it and look like it was a Community Board posting. So while they get some points for creativity, they lose all those points plus more for violating the law and the trust that the public reposes in the Community Board. Having said that, before I ask for motion to adjourn, once again, Happy New Year. Oh, and Lori's question. Thank you, Lori, for your patience.
This is just a clarification question. When we cannot make a committee meeting, whom do we notify?
The chairs of the committee.
Because, okay, so that should be an excused
Your
absence,
vote
right?
is CC both of us.
Okay, all right.
I believe I did see that.
Okay, so you'll just correct it for next time, or?
They make the
Okay.
ultimate decision.
Okay.
Happy New Year. Is there a motion to adjourn? A second? All in favor? Any opposed? Happy New Year.